welcome to Two Poor Artists, where we're poor at traveling to the North Pole, but mostly we're poor at making art. I'm Kaelyn.
And I'm Isaac. And that boy Benj has got himself all sick again, so that means today we get to invite back our longtime guest, Kaelyn, to fill in. Welcome, Kaelyn. I know you're so glad to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to join you.
Yes, indeed.
Here in the studio.
And today we have struggled to think of exactly what to draw. So we pulled up the old list of random ideas Benj and I have come up with over the years, and we have landed on Polarizing Foods. Now the question is, when Benj and I wrote that down a year ago, what exactly did we mean?
Well, we may never know, but we have come up with a new meaning for it today. And so when I think of polarizing, like most people think of different opinions that are strong and against each other. But
Exactly.
I just think of, cozy polar bears and penguins and stuff like that.
Yeah, the North and the South Pole foods. Nobody really knows what the cuisine... See, like, people know Italian cuisine, they know Mexican cuisine, they know American food, German food. But what is the North and South Pole food? I mean, they couldn't be more opposite.
Exactly. They're opposite ends of the globe. So obviously they are, polar opposites.
So either they have very similar cuisines because they're both on the poles, or they have very different cuisines. And today...
Do you think they have Polish food there?
It's probably the best... Is that what they call it? Even if it's not like sausages and...
I mean, I haven't been to either of the poles.
Yeah, who has? Like, nobody goes to the North and South Pole.
I grew up north in, the northern part of Minnesota, so I was, close-ish. But
see, and I grew up in the southern part of America, but I don't think that counts as the south of anything, really.
No.
The south of the north.
No, it just doesn't.
Nope. So that's why we get to bring you good people the foods of the poles. So am I going to do North Pole and you're going to do South, or are we going to do both?
How about you draw what you draw?
All right.
And then we'll take it from there.
I think that is a fair point. Now, whoa, that was a fun button. I didn't even know we had a...
Hi.
Interesting. All right. I'm going to start with what I think everybody thinks of when they think of the South Pole. They think of penguins. Because what else is at the South Pole, really?
Nothing else that's interesting.
Ice. But I don't know if you have like a snow cone or if you have like... So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we have like a fire. Because if you're gonna live in the South Pole, you're gonna need some fire.
That's right.
Because that's what you need. So here we have some sticks. I don't know where in the South Pole. You might have to import your sticks. Imported wood. Imagine that. Imagine living in a whole continent where you never have wood, and you have to not freeze to death, but you can't because you're gonna burn. You can't burn anything, so you just have to freeze.
That sounds very unfortunate.
Okay, that is fire. In case you're unaware.
Is fire.
See, I think of the North and South Pole as kind of like, they call them like the final frontier. It's not like the Star Trek kind, but like the nobody goes and explores them because you'll die kind. Or maybe that's the bottom of the ocean. It's the final frontier of Earth on land.
Yes. And the South Pole actually has land.
It does.
I mean, not that people have, seen it because
See,
it's covered in ice.
People don't understand the North and South Pole because down at the South you have Antarctica. And, you have actual land, but nobody ever sees it because it's covered with ice, pretty much.
I'm skeptical that the land exists, but...
Well, I've never seen it. Have you?
Yeah. No, I've never seen it.
Try not to judge me for what I'm about to draw.
Oh, I'm judging.
What does a penguin's head look like?
Not like that.
Like a beak? And like a head.
Oh, this is a sad picture.
Well, what else? See, I'm thinking of like in medieval times, back when you had very little options on what you're gonna eat. So they have like suckling penguin. There's like an apple in its mouth.
Back in medieval Antarctica.
Back in medieval Antarctica.
I don't know if Antarctica existed yet in medieval times.
So you don't put it in its mouth. You like skewer it on the beak.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know how creepy suckling pigs are, if you really think about it?
Oh,
You take a whole pig and you like stick a stake through its entire...
That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
The idea of it belongs in, a movie rated not for children.
Yeah, but again, this is Antarctica. If you're in Antarctica and you've got to survive, this is what you got to do. You got to have your... What do we have here? Like one of those handles that you turn. Suckling penguin, which is really just the most creepy name for... I don't even understand what I'm drawing. I apologize for this. Maybe it's like not a real penguin.
I would hope so.
Maybe it's like a tofu penguin. like for those vegans of the South Pole.
That's one way to keep PETA from coming and canceling your entire channel for roasting penguins.
I was just, I couldn't eat a penguin. I don't know about you. I don't particularly like tofu either. Not that I think that I could honestly say I've ever even tried it, but I know I wouldn't like it.
I've had mixed experiences.
See, because even people who were like,
if it's like, I'd rather eat tofu than a penguin.
Yeah, see, that's kind of the point I'm at too. If you get to the South Pole and they're like, we got two options. Go find yourself a penguin and skewer it, or unlimited buckets of tofu that you can form into the shape of a penguin.
Oh, the naturally produced tofu that occurs naturally in the South Pole.
Yeah,
local cuisine.
Under the ice.
Yes.
It's the smell of the tofu.
Is it the smell or the odor?
It's a little bit of both. But this is what you got to do when you're in the South. You got to make sure that you... it's on some kind of plateau.
An iceberg?
Mm-hmm. A piece of ice. It's melting as they cook it, so they have to cook really quickly before it...
It's the drawbacks of, using fire to survive, is it also just does away with your entire...
And while you're waiting for your suckling tofu penguin, you can have a snow cone. A tofu snow cone. Let's see. It's just like someone off screen holding this. You can see like the top of their head, maybe. It's in a beanie, in case you're wondering.
Okay. It is cold.
Yeah, they're waiting for their suckling penguin. So this is the South Pole. It's quite rough down there. You have two options.
Yeah.
But in the North Pole, really the only thing anybody knows about the North Pole is that they have polar bears and Santa Claus.
This is true.
So what do you eat when you're in the North Pole? Well, you still have to get your protein in. So what you have to decide is what are you gonna hunt? See, I'm not one of those people who's big into like veggies as like the basis of a meal. Like you can have them as a side. You can put them on your meat, on your like if you're here, they have Arctic apples that go with the tofu penguin. But if you're going to go to the North Pole, you have more options to hunt. You have like Arctic hares and Arctic foxes.
Oh, yeah.
And polar bears. But that's not all. Because as we've already established, Santa Claus lives in the North Pole, like everybody knows.
Yes.
Did your parents make you believe that Santa Claus was real when you were a kid?
No, in fact, quite the opposite. Santa was kind of a taboo subject for several years of my childhood.
Yeah, see, we
weren't allowed to even have books with Santa in it for a couple of years when I was in like second grade or so.
See, I get that. It's like a Christian, you don't want your kids to grow up thinking that like Santa's real. You confuse them. And then they might think that like everything you've been telling them is just made up. And that gets kind of dangerous.
Yeah. And then, it didn't take much longer down the road where then suddenly all my presents were labeled as from Santa, but also from the reindeer and also from the snowman.
See, reindeer are
And
real.
then as I'd opened these presents from Santa and the snowman and all one of the reindeer, several different reindeer would give different gifts and stuff. And then my parents would, tell me the story of how they came about finding this gift for me and stuff. So
Oh yeah.
it's
See,
like then other names would be on there, but it was also just clearly my parents. Like there was no deception. It was just a fun way of labeling.
yeah. See, that's kind of, I like that. It's at least cleverer than just lying to your kids their entire childhood.
I don't understand. Like there's other ways. Like having that magic and imagination and mystery and stuff is fun, but not with something like that.
See, all you parents out there that are listening with your children right now, not only are you learning a valuable lesson about not lying to your children, but you're also learning new recipes to teach. So let's see. This
is reminiscent of that one opening scene in The Wizard of Oz. Right here.
Stuck under the house.
Yeah, just the feet.
Maybe I should stop at just the feet.
Oh dear. Elf feet.
Elf legs.
The North Pole delicacy.
Nah, I'm just gonna go full elf. I don't really know what elves wear though. What do they wear? They wear like, I guess they got like a belt, like Santa's belt, but smaller. Just kind of looks creepy at this point. Kind of like a jester, like one of those jester collar things, and just kind of has like. Okay, before this gets too morbid, just remember, we're all at the Two Poor Artists Studios. We're very against real suckling elf. But when you got to have that traditional North Pole taste, those are elf ears, not like devil horns as they clearly look. Yeah, I got to give it more ear. I don't know if that helped or not. Gosh, it looks like a North Pole demon. Gosh, I don't know how to make it look happy and cheerful. Maybe a cheerful hat. Gosh. Served completely differently than a traditional North Pole or South Pole style. It's just one giant steak through the creature. And then you... Oh gosh. I don't know how you cook it. Maybe it's... Oh, I know it's happy and not morbid. Marshmallows. So you roast it over marshmallows that are on fire. Really, I don't think that's an area of cuisine that's been explored at all, is like cooking something over marshmallows. Because marshmallows burn up pretty quickly. But you have like applewood smoked and mesquite, but why not marshmallow? Santa would approve.
I think he would.
Yeah. You think Santa's ever eaten an elf? In a desperate moment?
I feel like it might go against, workplace ethics.
Yeah, but it's tofu. Like
maybe during the off season.
Yeah, this is like what
when no one's actually keeping track of.
This is like what the cannibal elves eat. That aren't cannibals. They just eat tofu.
Maybe Santa's one of those celebrities where it's like he seems all fine and dandy at Christmas time because December is the only month that anyone ever actually pays attention to him, and then he's got 11 other months of the year that he could be doing whatever he wants. He could be doing anything, and we wouldn't know.
So you're implying that during the other 11 months of the year, he's eating the elves?
We wouldn't know.
We wouldn't really know.
That or he's mastering the art of roasting things over marshmallows.
This is quite morbid. I don't know how to.
This is quite.
I'd like to apologize to the children and adults at home for my North and South Pole meals. This is just how I picture it. I picture you got to have your meat, and you just look at what you have in abundance of. This is how the original, like people, the wanderers, before they built the cities did.
I think it might be time to actually go on an expedition to the North and South Poles and find out what they actually eat.
Yeah, see, because apparently this is how I picture it. I picture it as like savage, the untamed wilds of the North and South.
And isn't that easily our first opinion of a place that we've never been to before? Like,
yeah.
It's not anything. I don't know what to expect. So obviously, they're just savages.
There's almost like a moral to this story, the way you put it. They also have snow cones in the.
Well, that's good. At least they have some good taste.
Yeah, I mean, you have so much snow in both places that you just have to kind of. This person also is wearing a beanie.
It's also cold.
They were one of those beanies with like a ball on the top. Why do you have that? Is there like a reason for those beanies that have a ball on the top of them? Is that like a weird round fashion statement? You think it's cool?
Yeah.
Like
maybe it's like a fashion statement.
Like if somebody, like if I showed up next week to church with a beanie on with a ball on the top, you'd be like, "That's a cool hat."
I mean, it would be Labor Day weekend in Arizona, so I probably would be like, "Why are you wearing a hat? It's still 200 degrees outside."
That's a good point. But it would be cool.
It would be cool.
And that's what I'd say. I'd be like, "I don't know why you think it's hot. This hat's so cool." So I'm told from the online videos I've been watching. Well, there, North and South Pole.
I feel like you took the poles very literally.
I feel like, well, yeah, like this is like the North, but I didn't make it striped like in the movies.
But like you got on the North Pole, you've got one pole going up, and the other in the South Pole, you've got a pole going across.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mean to do that completely honestly with you, but now that I think about it, it's pretty fitting that they're cooked on the poles, like at the pole. This is what they do. Because what else do you do with the North and South Pole? Just look at it. Looks like a candy can. I bet somebody's licked it. I'm sure that didn't end well because it's really cold up there.
Yeah. Although it looks like a candy cane, which means it obviously is made of sugar, right? So it just kind of like melt when you try to lick it.
So you're saying it adds flavor to the tofu elf?
Yes. Yes, that is exactly what I was meaning when I initially started my statement a few seconds ago.
Yeah. All right, so we're calling this Polarizing Foods. I'm sure this is what Benj and I meant when we wrote the title.
Well, if it's not, you could do a second version of the other.
Yeah, maybe Benj and I, maybe we'll let Benj make a response video to this. Like, that's not at all what I meant. But you know what? I have a feeling Benj would be pretty happy with this.
I'm sure.
Like, he's probably going to watch this tonight from his sick sanctuary. Or whatever he calls his house. I don't think people usually rename their house when they're... All right. Polarizing Foods. I don't know how I feel about this, but it's not the worst idea. Let's see if you can do better, though.
All right.
See, all I can really hope for with your drawing is that it's less morbid than mine. Like a thumbnail of mine wouldn't get many clicks.
Yeah, that either it would get lots of clicks. Yeah, or it might get lots of clicks, but not from the kind of people that you particularly
See, I'm not entirely sure what kind of people you are out there, but if you're the kind who's like really into suckling elf and penguin, then I mean, you're probably from the North or South Pole, or you're just a weirdo.
Comment below. Say
yeah,
hi.
let us know what type you are. You can also just let us know
what's your favorite way of serving.
Yeah. Would you rather have
suckling elf?
Would you rather have suckling elf or suckling penguin? It says a lot about you, your answer.
It really does.
Yeah, because people are like initially like, no, we can't eat elves. They're like people, but are they?
Are they though?
Are they like magical little toy making critters that follow a man who apparently eats them in the off months? Versus cuddly, sweet, nice penguins like Chilly Willy. You ever watch Chilly Willy?
I've never even heard of Chilly Willy.
He was on with like in the era of cartoons with like Yogi Bear, I feel like.
Okay, like those Hanna-Barbera cartoons
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Little penguin. And you just couldn't possibly eat him.
No, of course not. No. All right. Polarizing foods. So thinking.
Yeah.
Let's start off with we've got
Looks tasty.
I'm sure you would think that, huh?
The North Pole potato. Oh, it's a penguin. I knew it. I knew it. It's a penguin. Is this a South Pole or a North Pole dish? You think if you brought like a group of penguins up to the North Pole, would they like thrive up there? Or the polar bears probably just eat them all off?
You know, I feel like the polar bears have the upper hand, considering how they're just so much bigger. But maybe they would come to terms with, like we can commiserate and living in cold, miserable places.
So you think they'd become like friends? They'd bond over there?
Maybe
environment.
It would make for a very heartwarming story if that were the case.
I'm just concerned because your penguin is adorable, and if he's about to get eaten, then it's gonna go to the level of mine.
That would be really sad.
The penguin in my drawing, just for the record, if you have to hunt penguins, hunt the ugly, mean-looking ones, not the cute, fluffy little ones. That's kind of the case with all animals. Like if you have to eat like a person, just like survival, you're in a lifeboat situations. Usually you eat the mean, grumpy people first. You eat the mean, grumpy penguins first. Oh, thank goodness there's a dinner table. I bet he's going to eat a tofu penguin.
Wouldn't you like to believe that?
Personal question. If there was such a thing as tofu people, would you eat it?
No.
Quick to that answer.
It's people and it's tofu.
Well, no, it's not. Well, it's like, it's not real people.
But it's also just tofu.
Wait, okay, that's fair. Yeah, no. Dude. No matter how curious I might be.
There have been a couple of occasions. Like I have tried tofu a couple of times. And the first time I tried it, it was just nasty. But I've had it a couple other times where it was like cooked. It was like cooked in a way that it actually was kind of good.
So like there was enough like to mask the flavor of it.
Well, I mean, tofu is one of those things like it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor of its own. It's what it's cooked in is what it tastes like.
See, I just can't imagine the texture being pleasant. It just looks like you're eating a mushy sponge.
Yeah, and like the kind that I liked was like cut thin enough. It was like in thin enough slices, and then it was like cooked in a way that it was like seared on the edges. So it was like
crispy tofu.
Yeah. But not like too crispy, but like it wasn't like biting into a sponge.
That's good because most people try to avoid.
But like the time I had it where it was like the bigger chunks, it was pretty gross.
So is your penguin eating a table, or is that like some kind of weird jellyfish that lives in the South Pole?
This is not going how I wanted. Oh, this is supposed to be cute. And
it kind of looks like a... What? Something wrong with that penguin.
Maybe it's...
Oh, it's a polar bear. That's what's wrong with that penguin. I think. Unless it's...
Yeah, and it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. It is so sad.
It's better than my Siberian bear that I drew.
This
that Ben reminds me about. Constantly. Oh, so this is like what would happen if the polar bears and penguins ended up in the same habitat. See, this is what there needs to be a movie about. Remember that movie Madagascar? Ever see that movie Madagascar?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there needs to be a movie about like penguins that get lost and end up in the North Pole. And instead of the polar bears eating them, they become friends and they eat the elves or something.
No.
What is that? Who is that? Is that a plate or a face? Whose faces are they eating? I don't think there's too many faces of any creature that people snack on. Like when you go to the grocery store and you see those fish and the fish are like looking at you.
Oh, those are creepy.
Aren't they? Like who eats that? Who buys that?
Yeah, that's kind of a memory that I had suppressed from my childhood. I haven't seen those in a while.
Yeah.
But
it's super, super gross when the thing you're trying to eat is looking at you. I wouldn't have made it hundreds of years ago when you had to look at everything you ate. That's when I understand vegetarians. Like if your choices are like eat that bush over there or like stare into the eyes of your food. Oh, it's sushi. It just looks like a screaming face. You see what I mean? How it looks like a face?
Yeah. I mean, it's a face that I make when someone makes me eat sushi too. Although, let's face it, some sushi isn't actually that bad. But
when it's just
the kind of sushi I like doesn't also
kind of like avocados and rice.
Yeah. maybe crab meat. But like not what a lot of people consider real sushi. I don't like real sushi.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really likes real sushi. They eat it to look cool.
I mean, the people who do eat it, they're very, very passionate about it.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. But like, they just want to look cool. That's why they talk about it so much, and they insist that they spend like $55 on a piece of like something that they just plucked out of the ocean and slapped on a plate. I do have a question though. What goes into South Pole sushi? Is there like an ingredient list?
I mean, probably. I mean, they probably don't have a whole lot of rice, but they probably do have a whole lot of fish.
So there's fish.
With more fish.
More fish.
Maybe they wrap it up in some seaweed and call it sushi.
So it's just fish wrapped in seaweed. I feel like
that's essentially what sushi is.
I feel like penguins, that's pretty much what penguins eat. I don't know how much seaweed they eat, but
this is an educational segment.
This is like a nature documentary.
Yeah, of course.
It's turning into...
We're nothing but educational here. Nothing but educational here. To clarify that, we're nothing but educational here to poor artists.
Yes, we try very hard to offer good advice and learning, not only about art skills, like our art techniques and art history and future art history. Future art history is really my favorite subject we teach because it's just what the art books are going to say one day about us. There's going to be a chapter on you, the guest, the sick filling in guest of the two poor artists.
The recurring guest.
Yeah, people will study you in the future.
Like, why would she keep returning?
Yeah, it'll be like a chapter on not giving up when you're a poor artist. Like, even when you're sick, you just have to find other poor artists that are slightly better than you to fill in. Because, like, let's be honest, that 3D table that you drew, Benj and I don't have that level of skill. Like, there's like a side and a top and legs on the bottom. And... yeah. Oh, no. I just read. You're horrible. You're a horrible polar bear. You okay. So I'm seeing sushi and pickles, which are easily two of the most polarizing foods on Earth. Yes. In the other meaning. North Pole pickles. Oh my gosh. Just the worst. This settles it. If I have to choose, like if someone comes at my door right now and they're like, you have to relocate to either the North or the South Pole, I would have probably picked North Pole because they have like more than penguins and ice. But now, if I have to choose between, like raw seaweed, fish, and pickles, unfortunately, I'm probably going to pick sushi. But man, this just
probably would be the more ethical choice.
I don't know which I'd rather eat. If I'd rather have penguins and elves or pickles and... well, no, I know I wouldn't have pickles, but raw fish. Like, if I was at dinner with these two and they were like, here's what we're eating, I'm like... I would probably have the thought, like, I'm probably just going to eat one of you instead. like, both of you look more appetizing than what you're feeding me. That's a good rule for if you have guests over. Try not to let that be their mindset. If they look at what you're serving and they're like, I'd rather eat you than both of these, then A, you have some really scary friends, and B, you've cooked a really bad dish. Like a jar of polar pickles or like a sack of polar pickles?
So it's supposed to be a jar, but I laughed in the middle of drying it.
A sack of pickles. See, the reason we have jars in like the modern world is like you have to keep things like sealed and so they don't spoil. It's probably cold enough in the North Pole to just leave your pickles in a bag.
They don't. You notice how
Plus they're already ruined.
They don't have a refrigerator here because it's just not necessary.
That is the one thing about the North and South Pole that's probably easier than everywhere else on Earth to live. Like people talk about how hard it is, how you freeze, and there's like no water and.
But if your freezer goes out, it's not a big deal because
Exactly.
your entire backyard and front yard and neighbor's yard are also just freezer.
It's true. You probably keep things in your freezer to keep them like warm.
It's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like almost like a defroster.
Yeah, like you put it in there and eventually it, like you put your I don't know.
I mean, I've legitimately seen people because like I grew up in the Midwest where we actually have winter.
Yeah, I've never known that in Arizona.
And like we've had church events where we've had like ice cream socials or whatever at the end of the event. But when you have a lot of people coming around to all have ice cream and there's limited freezer space, like I've literally known people to just stick the tubs of ice cream out in the snowbank outside the door. It's a real thing.
In Arizona, it can be like, don't worry, the stove went out. We'll just fry the eggs on the sidewalk. And yeah. It's very similar, but opposite.
Very, very similar.
You know how often we fried the eggs for the Sunday brunch?
Oh, yeah.
On the sidewalk? Yeah.
Or, I mean, it's like, oh, yeah, we need some cookies today, but the oven went out, but I have a dashboard on my car.
Yeah. Have you ever baked cookies in your dashboard?
Have.
Yeah.
It's been a couple years, but yeah, no, I've done it a couple times. The first time I made them, and they came out fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because even if they're like...
I shared them with people I lived with at the time, and they thought they were also fantastic.
Yeah, it's a true benefit to living in somewhere where it's 150 degrees in your car. Because cookies will eventually bake.
Yes.
They take like eight hours ish.
One time I cooked them and they actually got 2 done.
Oh
I
man,
couldn't eat those ones because they were rock hard.
No,
they got 2 done.
That's the See,
so it's just like it's hot enough where you got it. Like it's truly an art form.
When you can burn cookies in your car or overcook anything in your car, it is too hot out.
Well, I should probably sign this.
This makes me like polar bears less. Just because he's offering pickles. That's just a rule about me.
I think the moral of this picture is that the penguin is the hero.
I think that's right. Even though he's serving the polar bear a face. Art. Oh, you've aged since your last outing here.
No, I think I did one.
Oh, did you? Were you here before?
Yeah, I did. I did one before. One where I was also 28.
Wow, I didn't realize it'd been so soon.
It was like right after my birthday, though.
Thanks for coming on, though. Thanks for filling in for that good-for-nothing artist who also happens to be sick.
That's one way to say poor artist.
That's pretty much what I meant. Yeah. That poor artist. 3 pours.
Yes, indeed.
Poor health, poor skill, poor looks.
Well, thanks for joining us today, everybody.
We love you, Benj. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
As always, we're surprised you made it this far into our video.
There's no way we could possibly ask you to subscribe to this atrocity, so we won't.
We would say share it with your friends, but it's probably better for wasting your enemy's time.
We're probably not going to get any better, but we will keep drawing.
See you next time.